Good morning on this Wednesday. Thank you for joining me. If you would like to get your seat reservation for this Sunday, you can find that at fbccrowley.org, clicking on the worship Get My Seat reservation button there. We have a 9 o'clock traditional service and 11:15 contemporary service, so we invite you to come and join us at either of those times, both of those times, whatever you'd like to do. Currently, we do have nursery care for the 11:15 service. I want to follow up on a couple of things from yesterday's Talk It Out Tuesday, and you can find that in our prior videos and see those there. I want to follow up on a couple of things. A couple of questions came in, and they are related to the discussion yesterday. One of them, both questions come from the same individual, but one question is, why do Christians say pray harder? I don't know. I'm not sure why Christians would say this, other than we have a human spirit that's been given to us by God, and in that human spirit, we sometimes allow that to run away from us and run away with us. I have found specifically in the pioneer areas, or what once was that, especially as people forge their own way in the West. I find this concept also among most of our culture today. We are in a dominated humanistic culture. What I mean by that is this, that we are dominated by the humanism, or this thought, belief, philosophy that everything begins and ends with us as humans, that we own it all, we control it all, we have it all, and I don't need anybody's help. I can do it myself. I don't need your help. I don't need anybody's help. I've got this. I'm fine. I'm good. Give me time. I'll get it done. And that kind of spirit is rampant in all of us. What is particularly frustrating is when we as Christians allow this to overwhelm us too. When we talk about this idea of, well, you just need to pray harder. Well, sometimes we may hear each other in conversation, or we talk about it in conversation that, I've been praying and I'm just not getting any answers. And sometimes in an encouraging moment, or what we'd want to be encouraging, we say we just need to pray a little harder. What is that? What does that mean? And say, I don't think it means what you think it means, to quote a movie. I think that we talk about and we encourage people, pray harder. What we want to say is have patience, keep going, keep praying, keep knocking on that door as that widow did. But what it comes out to mean, what it feels like to the hearer of those words, you just need to pray harder. What it suggests is that I've somehow failed. I'm somehow weak. I'm somehow less than. I don't have enough faith. I need to conjure up more faith. I need to do more to make this happen. And see, that runs dangerously close into taking on a sovereignty that you don't have. It runs dangerously close to taking on a role that we are not supposed to take on. I was reading in 1 Peter today in our reading plan. You can find it at fbccrowley.org/link, or click on the link button. You can find our reading plan. And in that reading plan, I was reading 1 Peter today, and he was talking about, submitting to all of the authorities, submitting to God, submitting to the human authorities, submitting to the governing authorities, submitting to these things so that we can live out the gospel. Okay, then let's not try to take on a role that's not ours to take. So when we tell somebody, hey, you just need to pray harder, what we're really telling them is that, or we don't mean to say it, but what we're really saying is that we're encouraging them to a humanistic philosophy. You just need to do more. We're encouraging them to take on a health, wealth, name it, claim it kind of situation. Well, you just need to have more faith. Well, that's another way to say the same thing. You just need to pray harder. Well, you need to have more faith. Well, I can have all the faith in the world, but if it's not God's will, see, here we go. I can want something. It doesn't mean I need something. I can want something from God. I can beg for it from God. I can even demand it from God. Okay. But doesn't mean I'm going to get it. Sometimes God may go, fine. If that's what you think you want, and you're going to refuse my sovereignty over your life, you're going to refuse to wait patiently for me to work this out for your good, Romans 8:28, then fine. That's kind of what we see him doing with Balaam and Balak, right? Fine. You want to go? Fine. And Balaam had to face the consequences of his sin. You want to do this? Fine. Have at it. But I'm telling you, that's not what you want to do. And so when we want to encourage somebody, I would say, don't tell somebody, well, you just need to pray harder. What you ought to say is, can I pray with you? Now, see, that's a vastly different approach, isn't it? We're not accusing somebody of being less than. I'm not attacking them as a Christian and in that way. I'm saying, hey, can I pray with you? That's got to be frustrating. I know that, see, that's empathy now. We're moving into empathy. We talked about that on Sunday. It must be hard, ... I don't know what you're going through. It must be difficult. I know that when you are praying for something and it doesn't seem like you have any resolution on that, or you don't have any conclusion on that, or you're not getting an answer, that is so frustrating. Can I pray with you right now about that? And that's putting yourself in a position of love, not anything else. You're saying, I love you. Let me pray with you. In fact, I would suggest, hey, can I pray with you right now? Before I forget, and let's be honest, we can tell people, hey, I'm praying for you. And you think you put it in your mental checklist that the next time you stop to have prayer time, you're going to do that. But the reality is, too often we forget. And hey, no shade. I'm just saying, I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it. Okay. So why not take a moment and say, are we all in that much of a hurry? See, we run on the belief that we're in that much of a hurry. We run on the belief that I don't have time to do this. I do it. You do it. Okay. You get it. So why don't we just say, let me pray with you? Well, but we're out in public. Okay. And I want to pray with you. Well, we're in the middle of the bank making transactions, and you want me to just stop right here in the lobby and put my hand on their shoulder and pray with them? I do. Oh, but we're in the middle of the grocery store, and my basket's full and their basket's full, and I don't want to take up the aisle. Put your hand on their shoulder and pray with them. The greatest example that we might be able to give somebody on that day that's strolling through is, I wish they'd stop taking up the aisle praying for each other. Okay, and take a moment. Takes 30 seconds. Pray with somebody. Instead of saying, you just aren't praying enough. You got to pray harder. What, you only gave 30 minutes in prayer for that? Well, how can you expect anything? Spurgeon gave 2 hours a day for prayer. Okay, let's not lay spiritual guilt trips on people. Okay, that's not appropriate. It's not helpful. You want to be helpful, then say, I'll pray with you. You want to get charismatic? I'll pray over you. I don't care. Just take a moment and pray, okay? But when we try to make it a competition, when we try to make ourselves feel better and say, well, you just need to pray harder, all we're doing in that moment is feeding our ego in an evil way. Because what it's doing is it's making it sound like I'm better than you, so you have to work harder. My friends, we are all sinners saved by the grace of God in Jesus Christ. There is no one righteous. Some of us have moved along the level of time and this journey further than other people. It doesn't make me better than you. Some of us have positions of limelight that don't make us better than you. Some of us act like we're more mature than somebody else. It doesn't make me better. More mature doesn't make me better. So instead of saying you have to pray harder, we should be saying I will pray with you right now. And I think that will be more beneficial and more helpful. I don't know why Christians say it other than we want to make ourselves feel better, or we have swallowed hook, line, and sinker a health and wealth, name it, claim it, line of reasoning spiritually, which I abhor. I hate this. It's wrong. We should not be in a seat of demand to God. We are beggars saved by grace. Another issue a question that came up yesterday that relates to yesterday is, why do so many Christians seem to have a problem with God being in control? And I would suggest to you that it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the humanism, this philosophy that is so prevalent in our society today. Everything comes back to me, my, mine, and I. The four quickest words to sin known to man: I, me, my, mine. When we get into a selfishness, which is the root of all evil, when I get into a position of I'm the master of my own fate. See, this is just Eastern philosophy that we've wrapped all up and made sound pretty. But the reality is, it is pagan philosophy. You are not the master of your own fate. You aren't the captain of your destiny. Are there things that God allows you to be in charge of? Yes. He says, be in charge and be responsible. See, that's what being in charge is being responsible. I'm responsible for the actions of my day. I'm responsible for the words I say. I'm responsible for the thoughts I think. I'm responsible. And see, this is what Jesus is getting at in the Sermon on the Mount. You've heard it said that, if you act in this way, but he wants to back it up. And he says, look, if you even think that, it's, hey, don't call somebody a fool. He says, don't even think it. I mean, how many of us can go a day and not think somebody's an idiot? Okay. I mean, this is how easy it is. This is how confessional we ought to be every day with God. Oh my goodness. I thought he was a moron. Jesus says that's a sin. Oh my goodness. Look at that idiot crossing. See how easy it is? It's so easy. We really need to increase our confessional life, I think. But why is it so hard for Christians to think God is in control? Because we've been taught, and we've chosen to believe that really we're in control. But we're not. Are we? Do you make the sun rise? Do you make the sun set? Do you cause the clouds to form and the rain to fall? Did you say, let there be light, and suddenly there's light? There's some CEOs that I think believe that because they say stuff and they've got minions that go out and do it for them. But that doesn't mean they really can do that, right? And I think we have to get out of our own way sometimes. We often believe that I'm in control. We want to be in control. It's a sinful temptation to, hey, I'm in control. Well, you're really not. Well, I don't want to be out of control. Okay, now we're splitting hairs on words. Yes, you need to be responsible. And so insofar as you are responsible for the choices you make, the words you say, the thoughts you think, and the stuff that fills your heart, not to mention where you go, what you do, and how you respond to people. Yes, you are to be in control of yourself. Control yourself. I get that. But ultimately, when it comes to future, we're a vapor, we're a mist, we're the dew that the sun burns off. We're here one day and gone the next. That's what the Bible says. You can make plans, but still you need to be aware. What if God changes the plan? Well, I mean, we wanted to start Sunday school, but the pandemic is causing us to do something different. And we need to be safe. And frankly, it is less about what we want and more about how are we going to be perceived by our community that we're trying to reach. We can't shut the door before it ever gets open. So we've got to be cautious, careful. Who's in control? It's not us. Oh, well, we've got to put the right person in all these. You know, it doesn't matter who sits in office. They're not in control either. Okay? At the end of the day, it's God. God is sovereign. I mean, when you read the model prayer, when you read that, the pray like this in Matthew 6, and Jesus says, hey, look, this is how you need to, these are the thoughts you need to have. This is the background. Our Father in heaven, glory to your name. See, that puts us in a different spot. God is sovereign, which means he's in control. God stands outside of time, so he's not bound by time. So we need to understand that God is in ultimate control, and you're exactly right. God expects us to have self-control. That's correct. We need to have self-control. You are responsible for you. I mean, I tell my kids this all the time. They come home, oh, so-and-so said this, oh, so-and-so. I said, look, you're responsible for you. You can't control anybody else. You be in charge of you, which really just speaks to be responsible. You break down that word, responsible, able to respond. God's given you the ability to respond. So if you have the ability to respond, be mature about it. Do it right. Do it well. But understand, we still submit to a higher authority. God has put authorities in the middle of that. 1 Peter 3, 2 and 3. What does it say? Submit to the authorities. And you know why he asks us to submit to the authorities? So that we can reveal the gospel. That's ultimately what it comes down to, that we can reveal the gospel by our responsibility. That's fascinating, isn't it? You have the ability to respond. Now do it well, but understand in the larger scheme of things, God's in control. The reason why so many Christians have a problem with God being in control is because really, we want to be in control. We want God to be nothing more than a genie in a bottle. This is a sad state of Christianity today. But we want to take God's holy word, we want to take the Bible, and we want to rub it just right, okay, and let God pop out of the bottle so I can tell him what I want. I can complain to him about how poorly he's running this universe, and that we think, look at this audacity. Hey, this is what you ought to do. Anytime I hear people start talking about what God should do, we need to be careful. He's not a genie in a bottle. God's in control. We don't have to like it. In fact, I don't even have to agree with it. But you know, that's where I have to confess to God. I have to confess to God my disagreement with him, right? God, I don't seem to, this is what Habakkuk was saying. God, when are you going to act? I can't believe a holy God's going to let this happen. And this is Habakkuk. Go read it. Why? When are you ever going to do something? If you're a God of love, we hear the same things today. And God told Habakkuk, well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to let a pagan king come and overrun you and take you off to exile. Oh, I can't believe a holy God would ever. Habakkuk couldn't understand it, couldn't get it. Job, why don't you just kill me now? Why was I ever born if this was going to be the lot in life that I was going to have? And God's like, look, dude, I demand a hearing in front of God. You sure about that? Go read Job 40 to 42. Are you sure that you want to have it out with God? I'm not sure you do. Go read and see God's questions to Job, as he said, were you here when were you the one? Did you tell the shore to stop here? Did you tell the atmosphere to stop here? Did you put Leviathan? What did you do? And Job's like, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir. I suggest don't go the way of Job and Habakkuk and have to get humbled publicly like that. You don't want that, trust me. Submit to the will of God. Submit to God. Pray with somebody today. Change a heart, change a life. It might just be yours that gets changed. We'll see you tomorrow.